right, good morning guys, happy Friday.
Good morning.
So it's been a little while since we met, but the last time we met we came up with a procedure in order to collect formal and informal behavioral offenses, and I've been working on compiling that data. I'm just going to share with you this morning a little bit about what I found. So beginning March 2016, we began our new behavior protocol school-wide. We've got the clip up, clip down chart, and we started collecting behavior referrals as well as office notifications. So I've compiled that into a spreadsheet. And bus referrals were not included at this time. That's something we talked about last time. We might do that next year, but this year we wanted to get a good handle on what's happening inside the building. Okay. So here's a look at the behavior offenses by the day of week, and you can see Tuesday is our hot day. And it's very interesting because I would have assumed Friday would have been our hot day. But then I even looked at it week by week. Tuesday was consistently our hot day for the past 4 weeks that we've been collecting data. Types of behavior offenses, this probably is not going to come as surprising to you. You'll see that our big areas are right here. We've got disrespectful behavior coming in at number 1, and then we've got peer conflict physical. And I just want to differentiate here. I've got 2 categories, peer conflict verbal and peer conflict physical. And I was really interested to see that there were more physical reports than verbal reports. And with physical, it can be anything from someone, a light shove. I'm not saying it's a knockdown, drag down fight, but some sort of physical contact had occurred during the offense, during the report. Okay, so this is what I thought was most fascinating. 89% of our behavior offenses were by male students, which was a huge wow to me. Especially when you think of in our building, the majority of our employees are women. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but it's something that just got me thinking about male role models, and we'll talk about that later on in the report. 58% of the reports are just by 12 kids. There's just 12 kids in the building that make up more than half of our behavior offenses. So that really got me thinking, and they're all males. So that really got me thinking, could we do something targeted to help support these kids in the classroom? Implications. I did look at the MAP data for 4th grade, and I found that the male students, who make up 89% of all the behavior offenses, also have a higher rate of low growth in reading in MAP. So I'm starting to wonder if we can connect the dots of those behavior offenses to low growth. And you can see that I dug deeper into that MAP data. We've got our GT kids, our ECE kids, minority groups, and kids who were known as frequent discipline offenders. And you can see they're the second highest group of low growth. So, what are we going to do about it? So I'm just going to throw out some ideas today, and then just hopefully to start our conversation, and we can start talking about what we want to do to make a difference. Targeted mentoring is a program that I've looked into quite a bit, and I know Christy, you and I have talked about that. So literature on the subject supports a variety of mentorship programs used as interventions to promote male student behavior and academic success, and there's a few different models of mentoring that we might want to consider. There's peer mentoring, and there was even one research article that had older students, older EBD students, mentoring younger EBD students, which I thought was fascinating, and the outcome was very promising with that program. So I thought that was very interesting. But then also mentoring by adults who work in the school building. Christy and I have been working on that with some non-contingent, building some relationships with kids, not necessarily talking about what's happening in school, but hey, what movie did you watch? Or, just things that don't really have to do with school to build those relationships. And then, of course, there's mentoring by outside members of the community, and Big Brothers Big Sisters is one example of that, but there are other volunteer programs that do things like that. But then, of course, as your PE teacher, another possible solution is increased movement. So we're going to look at a really short snippet of a professor at Harvard. He's a professor of psychiatry, and he's been researching some really interesting things about using movement not as an intervention, but as a treatment. And before we cue up to this video, I'll just give you a little bit of a synopsis of what he was talking about. He was talking about, he had 3 groups of people who were fighting depression, and so he had one group that was took Zoloft. He had one group that took Ritalin, and one group that just did exercise. And the exercise group far surpassed either one of the other 2 groups. So he's just finished talking about that, and now he's going to talk about a particular school where he started using movement as a treatment.
They did both, medicine and exercise. What they found after 4 weeks is that all their depressive scores dropped to the same level. And at the end of the 4th month, which is how long the experiment went, the changes had remained. And so this kept me interested in exercise as a treatment. But then I learned about this school in Naperville, Illinois, in 2003 that led me to write my book, Spark, which has given me the purpose and mission of changing our education system, bringing back play and exercise as a treatment modality or as a stimulant modality for all of our kids and all of us. Naperville had 19,000 students, and they had evolved over a 20-year period this wonderful PE program that was fitness-based, and it was every day. So the kids were spending 45 minutes, all of them moving and grooving. Well, what got them national recognition is that 3% of their children were overweight. And it was a time when 33% of our kids were overweight. In 7,500 children in the high school, there was not an obese child to be found. Remarkable. But what really got me on an airplane to go there was that some years before, they had taken the TIMSS test, the International Science and Math test, that every country takes every 3 years to rate and see how they're doing on science and math. And the U.S. is usually in the low to mid-teens. And they took it as a country. And they came in #1 in the world in science and #6 in math. So I jumped on an airplane, went there, and began to put together the science of exercise and its effect, not only for mental health issues, but for cognition. We began to take this idea to other schools, went to an inner city school in Charleston, South Carolina, where they had no resources, one gymnasium, one PE teacher. She set up 8 different stations in the gym, had her 4th to 8th graders come in every morning for 30 minutes, had them play basketball one station, double Dutch jump rope at another, pogo stick, hula hoops. They kept rotating, so the novelty was there. What they found in the first 4 months was a 83% drop in discipline problems. Now, it wasn't just burning off energy. What they were doing is they were turning their brains on. We worked with another school up in Northern Ontario, where the high school, where they had a special class for their 25 bad boys. They were very disruptive in a bad way, and one of the things that they had to do was to suspend these children if they were in fights and breaking furniture or just disrupting the class too much. So we went in and helped them design a program to get all these kids moving and moving vigorously in the morning. And so what you can see on the graph here is that the semester before, they had 95 days of suspension of these children. After we started the program, it dropped to 5. Then, as well, the attendance went up So these kids came to school, and these were rough kids, came to school to get their credits, to finish their courses, to participate in schools. Now, what happens when we exercise is we turn on our front part of the brain and last part of the brain to evolve. This is a part of the brain that's called our CEO of the brain, or our prefrontal cortex, where our frontal executive functions are. And when we exercise, when we move, we turn that part of the brain on. As well, we create a lot of neurotransmitters that we aim at with our psychiatric drugs. And we create another substance that we just learned about called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotropic factor, which I called miracle grow for the brain. Because when we fire our nerve cells, we make this stuff, and this keeps our brain cells young and perky. One of the reasons why exercise is one of the best ways to prevent the onset of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease, but it also readies our brain to be plastic. And we know we need to we know we need to have our brain cells grow to log in any new information. So exercise is a terrific way to improve the learner, because it turns on the attention system, it turns on the motivation system, it turns on the memory system, as well as it makes all of our little brain cells ready to grow and sprout. And that's the only way we learn anything.
All right, so fascinating stuff. It's interesting we can learn more about him. That's all right. Oh, it's fine. But it's just fascinating to find out, in the past, we thought movement was movement and learning is learning. And now we're learning that movement and learning go hand in hand. And in order to reach our full cognitive potential, we need to be moving. So wondering if that could have an impact. So after learning more about the work of Professor Rady, I went to a couple of our teachers. I went to Miss Dawson and Mr. Page, and asked them if they would be my guinea pigs. And what they did is they tracked data for 6 days. 3 days, they gave minimal movement breaks. And then for the next 3 days, they gave frequent movement breaks. And you can see Mr. Page's data is there on the table, but I've got a graph up here of his data. Miss Dawson had similar results. Basically, you can see with frequent movement breaks, the disruptions were way down. This is for every student in the class. With minimal movement breaks, not much movement, look at the number of disruptions. And in particular, there's one of our 12 students that we've targeted. With the frequent movement breaks, he had only 3 disruptions. With minimal movement breaks, he had 13. So that's a huge difference for that kid. And as we know, success breeds success. And if we can set an environment where these particular kids who in the past have been disruptive and kind of minimize that disruption, that success is just going to keep multiplying. So here's where we're going to start the real conversation. Merging the two solutions. Do we think we could merge mentoring with movement with these targeted 12? What could that look like? Who would be involved? So we have lots to talk about. I feel like our work is just beginning, and I'm excited about what we might be able to accomplish and make a difference here. And so next steps, if we're talking about designing a mentoring program, it's not something that I think we should rush into and just do. There are a lot of things to think about. We've got to review some literature. We've got to find a model that we think would best work for our population. We need to present our idea to SVDM, identify the students who might benefit, identify the mentors, really set up a good training program so we've got quality mentoring happening, background checks, all of that. So, this is not something that we're just going to be able to jump right in and do this year, but I really feel it's something valuable that we need to talk about and we can plan for. And this is just a list of my research. So now, I thought we could just sit down and talk about where this might lead us with some particular students.